Well, New Zealand is officially in its first recession for 11 years, and to talk a little bit about it, no surprises, Liam Dan, that this is COVID related, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the worst GDP fall that New Zealand has ever had in a quarter by a long shot. So the worst previously was 4.4%, I think. So this
12.2%.
12.2%, and it is absolutely to do with the fact that we shut down the country almost entirely for about 6 weeks or so, 6 weeks to 2 months.
The borders as well.
And shutting the borders, with tourism being a big part of our economy. So they're still shut, they're still hitting the economy, but that hard lockdown has meant that, GDP measures economic activity. We didn't have any for a big chunk of that time, or we had very little.
Sure. How bad is it when you look at some of the other countries? Our drop is higher than Australia at 7%, Canada 11.5%, 7.9%, and Japan 9.1% in the United States. We're getting really smacked around.
We are. It is worse in that sense, but it's also sort of, it's one quarter, so you have to look at how it fits into the whole COVID recovery. So what we won't know is how what benefit we might have got from that hard lockdown by being able to come out and have certainly in the third quarter we've been able to have more activity. This other lockdown that we've just been through hasn't helped, but economists are also expecting, so we had a record fall in GDP in the second quarter, they're expecting a record rebound in GDP in the third quarter.
So is the scorecard good or bad for what the government did then, I suppose? Because ANZ was initially predicting down 17.5%, and we're less than that. The UK got like 20%, right, which is just a walloping. That's about a fifth of the economy.
Yeah, so the initial projections for New Zealand going for that hard lockdown and with the borders was so bad that almost everything in our short-term economic data has been better than expected in the past few months.
Unemployment numbers and all
Unemployment numbers. So Treasury initially forecast that we'd see a 23% drop in this quarter. So in a way that frames things quite nicely for the government. Everything is slightly better than expected, but also it's still historically bad. So there's a lot of room for political debate, which is going to certainly be there right now.
At the moment as well.
Economists will want to look at how we go in the current quarter. So the current quarter, we've gone into recession officially. We've had 2 quarters of contraction. This quarter won't be a contraction. It'll be a rebound because that's the way we measure GDP. So we're effectively out of recession already. And then the caveat is that we are being supported by government money, so the real pain may come next year.
This is a question as well that I have. We have so much government stimulus in the mix with the wage subsidies and also this and business help with loans and stuff like that. How much are we not actually feeling?
Quite a lot, I think. I think this is a really unusual scenario, and that the normal symptoms of recession, which is the high unemployment, businesses falling over, are likely to be felt, and economists have pushed them out into next year. So it will feel worse next year, even though technically in terms of, the economists might be talking about the numbers starting to look better, but I guess it depends on how far we go with the government stimulus, how much money we borrow, and that also depends on how we go with our response to keeping COVID out, but also, how long this thing drags on, whether we see a vaccine or something that changes the equation. So
do we think, let's say, we hear Trump all the time talking about a potential vaccine. He's hoping before the the federal election in the United States. But how are economists predicting the bounce back will sort of happen? Are we expecting a long sort of drawn out thing as a result of all these economies being shut down for so much time? Or is it potential, given that the fundamentals in the market weren't like what we had in 2008, that you could just sort of ping back up quite quickly?
I think if there was a vaccine that came through and was widespread, you could see quite a big sort of, like a post-war economic boom.
Yeah.
People would
Everyone
want to party.
To take their holidays that they haven't been able to take.
Yeah, all that stuff. But assuming a sort of, economists are sort of building in that kind of 18 months type thing to get something efficient out there. I think it's seen as a long haul. And the way, GDP is very volatile at the moment. And so another way to look at it is, what was our total GDP level at the end of 2019? How long will it take to get back to that same level? And so that may take 2 years, 2022, something like that, just to get back to where we were. And that would be, to say that we've sort of had a basic recovery.
Some of the economists being really critical this morning, you after we hear these numbers, looking at both potential governments, whether that be, you know, National after the next election or Labour as it is now, saying it's not very inspired economic policy. They seem to be going down the old routes of immigration and houses.
Yeah.
Is there something that we're missing?
This idea that we shouldn't waste a crisis, that maybe big bold change can happen when you know the stakes are so high that, you know, anything goes. I guess the counter to that, and I've talked to the Reserve Bank governor about this, because, you know, that question of rates being so low and helping those who've already got assets, is it driving inequality? The counter is that right now, you know, in a crisis, you do want to maintain some stability in the economy, and of course, New Zealand economy is propped up by housing wealth, and so if you keep housing prices stable, then the middle classes will feel comfortable and they'll keep spending, and it's a sort of a lesser, you know, the lesser evil argument. If we let all that go, then you might actually see unemployment and the real poverty that it creates being a lot worse. I don't want that to be an excuse for not transforming the economy. The argument would just be that maybe when you've got the crisis sort of under control, then you have to get on with things like transforming the economy. And
Business Editor at Large, Liam Down. We went a bit longer. Thanks very much for your time. He's got all the details as well at nzherald.co.nz, and he's spoken to some people who are much more in the know. Bye for now.